For over 60 years, there was this one voice in the American story, a voice of protest, a voice of politics, and a voice of power. Today, we're going to talk about the life, the legacy, and the incredible call to action of the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
You've heard it, right? It sounds so simple, but wow, it was so much more than a chant. It was a declaration. With just those 3 words, Jesse Jackson armed people who had been pushed to the margins with a profound sense of their own dignity and self-worth. And that simple idea, it became the bedrock of his entire life's work.
And with his recent passing, it really does feel like the end of an era. I mean, for 6 decades, he was just there, always on the front lines, a constant presence in the nation's long struggle for justice. So the question is, how do you even begin to understand a legacy that massive and, yeah, that complicated? Well, this quote from Reverend Al Sharpton just frames it perfectly. He said, "Jackson was the bridge between Martin Luther King and Barack Obama." And that's really the key to understanding his role. He was that human link, the one connecting the foundational civil rights struggles of the 60s to the political possibilities of the 21st century.
I mean, just look at this timeline. The sheer scope of his activism is staggering. He's marching with Dr. King in 1965, and then you fast forward all the way to 2021, and he's still getting arrested at a protest. This wasn't just a chapter in his life. This was a lifetime commitment that stretched across multiple generations.
So if he was the bridge, you have to ask, how was that bridge built? To figure that out, we have to go back to his early days and his pivotal relationship with his mentor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Jackson's story starts deep in the segregated South. He was born in Greenville, South Carolina, to a teenage mother who wasn't married, and he faced a lot of stigma because of it. But he always said that those experiences just poured fuel on his ambition. He became a student leader, and then in 1965, he answered Dr. King's call and went to Selma, stepping onto the national stage for the very first time.
And Dr. King immediately saw that drive. He was so impressed he put Jackson in charge of Operation Breadbasket up in Chicago. Now, this wasn't just about protesting. It was about economic power. Jackson's strategy was brilliant. Use consumer boycotts to pressure companies to create jobs for African Americans. It was practical, it was effective, and it was a huge sign of the kind of leader he was becoming.
And then came the moment that changed absolutely everything. Jackson was standing on the ground just below the balcony in Memphis when Dr. King was killed. In that single, horrible, tragic instant, the weight of the entire movement shifted, and Jackson, the protégé, was suddenly thrust into the role of torchbearer.
After King's death, Jackson's focus began to shift. He moved from the protest line into the political arena, trying to build a completely new kind of American political power.
His 2 presidential campaigns in the 80s they were historic. In '84, he proved that a black candidate could absolutely be a serious contender. By '88, he was a flat-out political powerhouse, winning primaries all over the country and fundamentally changing the Democratic Party. He didn't win the nomination, but what he did do was register millions of new voters.
So how did he build all that momentum? With this revolutionary idea he called the Rainbow Coalition. He argued that all these groups that were often pitted against each other, struggling white farmers and urban black workers, feminists and union members, gay and lesbian Americans, they actually shared common ground. He believed if they could just unite, they wouldn't just be a coalition, they'd be a new majority.
And this was the heart of his message at that famous 1988 Democratic National Convention. He rejected all that rigid ideology, arguing that real progress only happens when you find common ground. As he put it so perfectly, whether you're a hawk or a dove, it takes 2 wings to fly.
He used this beautiful metaphor about his grandmother's quilt. He painted this vivid picture of a stronger America, one built from all these different patches: farmers, workers, women, minorities, all of them sewn together by the common thread of shared struggle and hope.
And then he made it deeply personal. He connected his own story of overcoming stigma to the dreams of millions of people watching at home. At that point, it wasn't just a political speech anymore. It was a sermon of hope, a national affirmation, telling every forgotten person in America, hey, you can make it.
But of course, Jackson's journey wasn't without its challenges and its missteps. To get the full picture, you have to look at all the complexities of his long career as a public figure.
His legacy is one of really stark contrasts. On the one hand, you have these incredible triumphs, securing the release of American hostages from all over the world and empowering millions of voters. On the other hand, there were some really damaging controversies. His Hymietown remark in 1984,
a public admission of an extramarital affair, and that hot mic moment where you criticize Barack Obama. It's a testament to both his huge impact and, well, his human flaws.
As he moved into his final years, even as his health started to fail, his central mission, that never wavered.
He faced immense personal challenges, battling not just Parkinson's disease but also PSP, which is a rare and really debilitating neurological disorder. It affected his movement and it affected that iconic voice, but it never ever touched his spirit.
Despite everything he was dealing with, he stayed on the front lines. He was arrested protesting for voting rights. He stood in solidarity with George Floyd's family. He just kept showing up, even when it was incredibly difficult, embodying his lifelong belief that the work is never truly finished.
And that brings us to his most enduring phrase. For Jackson, keep hope alive was never just a political slogan. He actually saw it as the assignment that was given to him by his mentor, Dr. King, a sacred duty to carry on the struggle, no matter the odds.
So as we look back, we're left with this question. The purpose of a bridge isn't to be a destination itself, right? Its whole job is to connect one place to another, to make a new journey possible for everyone who comes after.
And maybe that's the truest way to understand the legacy of Jesse Jackson. He was the bridge. He connected one generation's struggle to the next possibilities. And his assignment, the one he carried his whole life, well, now it's been passed to all of us. And it remains as urgent and powerful as ever. Keep hope alive.